Hi, Assalamu alaikum. So, introduction to articulation points. Definition of an articulation point is where a letter is emitted from. Where a letter is emitted from, and its point of pressure. Meaning, where is the tongue, for example, putting its pressure, or what is the pressure point that you're feeling? Okay. So, that is different to the characteristics of letters, which is how a letter is emitted. Articulation is where, right? And characteristic is how. Okay. Now, the articulation points are 17 in total. Each has a specific or approximate point. Okay, so we'll look at that in detail later on. But specific means that it's specifically one point. For example, the tongue has for lamb a specific place, which is the edge of the tongue. Okay, so when it comes to, however, the letters from the jove, which is empty space is not a specific place. So for that reason, that's called an approximate articulation point. Okay, now generally there's four general parts for where articulations come from. There's the jove, empty space of the mouth and throat, right? We have the throat itself, okay, not just empty space but the parts of the throat. We have the mouth, which includes the upper palate, tongue, and teeth and lips, and nasal cavity, okay, which is empty space of the nose, as you can see here in this picture and diagram. Nasal cavity is there, empty space of the mouth and throat is there, right? Okay, tongue, teeth, lips, and upper palate, right? Is there? Okay, we're gonna expand this now. Okay, so expanding these, when it comes to the throat, we have three parts. Okay, we have the root of the tongue, which is the closest part. Okay. Okay, Bismillah. So I just got a call, so I had to pause the recording. Okay, so so we are on the part of the throat. The closest part of the throat is the root of the tongue. Okay. Note that the root of the tongue is also part of the tongue. Okay. Then we have the middle of the throat, which is the epiglottis, and that epiglottis there is here. Okay, you can see in the diagram that here is the epiglottis. That is actually used to cover the throat and cover it so that food doesn't go down, or that pipe. There's two pipes there: the wind pipe and the food pipe, right in the mouth. So we use this to swallow the epiglottis. It blocks the way for the throat to stop the food going into your lungs instead of the stomach, right? Okay. Then you have the farthest part of the throat, okay? Farthest. That is the vocal cords, which is in the larynx here, right? Note that also, look how this is so close to, look, your tongue. Well, this is your tongue, the root of your tongue, right? And the epiglottis, it's not down here, right? When we say the middle of the throat, we don't see down here in the middle of the neck. Neck is not the throat. We're talking about over here. Okay, so the epiglottis is actually right there, in there, right? And the lowest part of the throat is the vocal cords there. Okay. Now, that is a part of the throat. If you look at the mouth, okay, and now just to show you, we're looking at these, right, in more detail. We looked at the throat, and we're looking at the mouth. We're looking at the mouth. Okay, so the mouth is split into 5 parts. Okay, we have the gums near the teeth, and that is those parts of the upper palate that hold the teeth. So it's a very small area, as you can see in this part here too. Okay, then you have the pre-palate area, pre-palate. That is just below that, and it's a very soft piece of gum right here. This is where it starts raising upwards to the dome, which is the middle of the palate. Okay, as you see here, that's the highest part. That's where the middle of the palate is. Then yeah, so we get to the hard palate, which is the leveled off part of the palate. Okay, And you see here that we've got also the bony structure all the way down here. Then we get to the soft palate, and soft palate is where we get a less bony structure. There's no bone there. There's covered by muscle. Okay, so that actually is a lot softer than the hard palate. So that's why it's called soft palate. So the back of the mouth, just before you reach the uvula, which is the end of the your upper palate, which you can see in your mouth. That dangly thing there, that's the uvula. And the back of the mouth is the back part. Next to the uvula is the soft palate. The hard palate is all that top there that you saw before the soft palate. And the pre-palate area, if you can see, but I've seen that there's a different texture. Or if you look in the mirror, you can look, there's different texture, right? That is mostly the pre-palate area with the hard palate area as well. Okay, and you get the soft palate right at the back. Okay, now those are the 5 parts, and a lot of letters come from this. Okay. So, tongue, 6 parts. The root of the tongue, which is also part of the what we said was the throat, right? So note that the root of the tongue is considered both the tongue and throat. Okay, then we have the farthest part, which is this part here. And these lines indicate how much of the tongue is part of the farthest part. Between these 2 yellow lines is the farthest part of the tongue. Then between these 2 is the middle. Okay, and then the end is what? This part is the top. So I call it the top of the tongue, but they call it the tip. And I like to call this part the tip of the tongue, but they call it the tip of the tongue. And then so that's the 5 parts, and then we have the edge as well. The edge is literally the edge from the farthest part of the edge to the closest part of the edge, which is at the top of the tongue here, to the tip of the edge here. Okay, so that edge is split into 3 parts. Okay, now that is the tongue. Okay, now the teeth are 32 in total. As you can see, we have the central incisors, lateral incisors, canines, which are the sharp parts, premolars, molars, and wisdom teeth. These are useful when it comes to wanting to know what part is part of the tongue, what part of the tongue coincides with this part of the tooth. Okay, when you're trying to find out in your mouth which part of the tongue is which, and which part of my upper palate is which, right? Experimenting, feeling these parts, and then feeling with your teeth, because your teeth are split up in this way. So you can see in the picture where they coincide. Okay, so that's a way of experimenting and getting to know your mouth. Now, doing a bit of familiarization, okay, through the eyes, linking through the eyes. Note how each part of the tongue coincides with their respective part of the upper palate, meaning opposite to it. Let's say the upper palate is this, the tongue is this, okay? The upper palate goes up, whatever is opposite to it coincides, okay? So the middle of the tongue would coincide with the middle of the upper palate, right? As you can see here. So here's the top, there's the top of the upper palate. Okay, these coincide with each other. So as you can see, the tip of the tongue goes to the root of the teeth, the gums, just after the gums, which is the root of the teeth. Okay. You can also go to the gums as well if you go directly upwards. Okay. And you'll find actually when your tongue is at rest that your tongue is actually a bit more longer than your gums. So they actually reach the teeth if they're relaxed on the bottom. And raise it, then it doesn't touch the teeth, but it goes towards the gums. And if you go forward a little bit, you can go to the root of the teeth. Okay. So the top of the tongue coincides with the gums and the prepalate area. Middle of the tongue is a lot of the hard palate. Okay. But also some of the prepalate area. Okay. So yeah. Okay. Then the farthest part of the tongue reaches the hard palate as well as the soft palate. And the root of the tongue is at the back, of course, with the soft palate too. Okay. Now, if we take our tongue and want to familiarize with feeling, okay, then we can feel the front of the tongue, the teeth, then the gum line, which is between the teeth, and the upper palate, the line. Feel that there is a line where it meets the teeth and the gums. Okay, that is the gums. You go back a bit with the tongue, feel it, go back. Right. Feel now a bumpy structure by going back just a tiny bit. It gets a little bumpy. That's still the gums. Then from there you go a little bit up. And when it starts to slide upwards, that is the prepalate area. Okay. There. If we go back up here, as it goes up, actually starts to tickle a little bit as well. That's the prepalate area. Then we reach a point, it starts to feel a bit softer, less harsh. That's where we get to know the top of the palate, where it starts to level off here. Now that's the end of the prepalate. We're starting the hard palate. See how that's different in feeling? One feels a bit more friction, and the other is soft. But it's also hard. It's not soft. It's not like the back. Then if you go further back, you get further up here, and you go all the way back, and it starts to feel very soft. That's the soft palate. Right? So those are the different parts of the upper palate in feeling. Okay. To familiarize yourself with how each part sounds, the front, where you had the gum line, that is where dal comes from, for example. So ta as well. Then the gums itself, those, okay, that is where ra comes from, and lam, l, okay, l, and noon, okay. Then if you go to the pre-palate area, pre-palate where it meets the hard palate as well, that is where ya, sheen, and jim come from, which is those sounds. From the middle of the tongue. Okay. Then we go to where the hard palate. That's if we say, for example, calf. Calf actually is where the hard palate meets the soft palate, but it's more on the hard palate. So you can hear this if I say. That's the hard palate. I'd like you to do this by yourself as well. So feel and listen to these sounds. So if you just need to go back and do that, you can do that. Now, getting to the soft palate, and that's where qaf comes from. As you can hear that like this, look. that is a soft palate. That's how it sounds. If you just put your tongue on it. Okay, that's a soft palate. Ha and ghain also come from there. Note that it's very soft, so when you're saying those letters, don't press hard. Right? This is part of abusing the letters, which is wrong. And that actually didn't help you get the right sound. Okay. Then we have the questions for this, okay, inshallah, which we'll be memorizing. Jazakallah khair.